Welcome everyone to April's Advisor Ambassador Program. This is the second class of April. My name is Zach Hewells and I work in the Marketing and Communications Department at the NAFA Home Office, but I'm in my home office, as I'm sure a lot of you are right now. But I have a very special guest today, Josh O'Gara from NAFA, Massachusetts. And Josh is here to talk a little bit more about building your professional network. And we're just going to be having an open discussion today. It's going to be a little different format than we're used to on the Advisor Ambassador Program, but we're looking forward to it. So if you do have any questions for us during this, this new process, we do have a chat feature at the bottom of your Zoom window here. So I'll go ahead and send everyone a message. Everyone, that way you know where the chat feature is. And if you do want to use it during the program, feel free to send us in a question. And maybe at the end, we'll have some time for discussion. You guys can unmute yourselves, maybe even share your screen if you're feeling brave, and we can talk a little bit more. But I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to Josh and just say, hey, how are you doing, man? How's your Tuesday going so far?
Doing great. Adjusting to the new normal, just like everyone else, and trying to figure out some new ideas. And NAFA's been doing a great job with keeping everybody up to date with what's been going on from an industry perspective, but also best practices. And it's great to have events like this, just to kind of, from my perspective, to hopefully get a discussion going, hear what's working, what's not working for other people. And I appreciate you inviting me on the call today, Zach. So
of course,
hopefully I can provide a little bit of insight on some things that are working for me, and then if other people have ideas, we've got the chat box open, and please feel free to share.
Of course. And I just want to point out that Josh actually has spoken for our class before. He did a session on time management and cash flow, and one of the things that he mentioned on that class was about a Panda Planner that he uses. Not a sponsor, by the way, just wanted to shout it out because I went out and I got one after he used it. And admittedly, I have not used it in about a month or so, but just because I've been chained to my desk at home, but it's been really helpful. So I just want to say thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Glad you were able to pull some nuggets of information.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know that everyone here may or may not be newer to the business, or maybe they're more established, but I guess we can go ahead and open it up. How did you get started in the business?
Yeah. So interesting, I guess probably similar story to a lot of people, I never planned on being in the insurance business. I went to school for economics, got out of school, and was selling copiers, actually, believe it or not, in downtown Boston. And in 2006, I was at a networking event, which is kind of goes right in line with what we're talking about today. I was in a B&I group in downtown Boston, and there was actually a recruiter that came in from Northwestern Mutual as a guest of one of the other members, and we got to talking. And just to give you a little background on myself and my family, my father actually grew up in Ireland. He was born in Ireland, and yeah, there you go, Brian. Just like any good Catholic family, he was the oldest, so he was sent off to the seminary when he was 8 years old. So he started out his life as a Catholic priest, made his way over here to the States when he was 18 years old. Was over here as a Jesuit actually for about 10 years, and decided he wanted to leave the seminary, but still wanted to help people and serve people. So he actually went to work for the Department of Family Services, Child and Family Services in Brockton. Met my mom, who was working with housing and urban development down there as well. So she was a social worker, started her own agency actually in the Boston schools in 1986, and has run her own nonprofit agency out of the Boston schools since 1986. Reason I give that, So reason I give that background information is I always say it was in my blood to help people out. My dad, after he actually left the Department of Family Services and started his own business as well, he was a home inspector for about 25 years, ran his own home inspecting business. So I knew I wanted to help people, and from the example my parents gave, I knew I wanted to run my own business. I didn't exactly know what I was going to do though. So this recruiter from Northwestern, we had a great conversation, and really got to understand how we help people out in this business. And so kind of combined both those aspirations that I had to run my own business and to help people out as best I could, and decided to take that leap in 2006. So long story short, find myself here 14 years later, running my own practice up in Woburn, Massachusetts, focusing primarily on employee benefits.
Nice. So you used a lot of what you learned from that just to sort of, get the ground running on it, and you used it to sort of shape your practice today.
Yeah. And as most people who have been in this business for a while, it kind of is a winding road. And started out on the individual insurance side of things. Definitely, really believe in that part of the business. But as I was growing up, my 18 out of the last 24 months, my dad was alive. He was in the hospital. And he actually, he piled up a good amount of medical bills in that period of time. Thank God my mom, being the director of her program, was able to select her own health insurance policy for the business. So, my mom was able to provide a great policy for our family. We hardly paid anything out of pocket for all those costs that my dad incurred. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2004. He didn't have any life insurance. So I got to see both sides of the insurance business, what happens when you have good insurance and what happens when you don't. He didn't have a headstone for the first 18 months after he passed away because there wasn't any money available to do that sort of thing. So, I started out on the individual side of things, had an opportunity to kind of get a taste of, the employee benefit space about 5 years ago. And, my practice has really grown and focusing in that space, really helping out the employees for the companies that I work with.
Right. And, the people you meet along the way, that I'm sure that you've heard plenty of stories similar to yours as you've gone on in the business. And I talk to a lot of advisors around, and they say that they have very similar stories and about people that they help. But it's good that you're out there fighting that fight. You were talking about how that networking event really did change your life as you moved on and decided what you were going to do and you started your practice. How have you sort of used what you learned from that 2006 experience in your practice to sort of build your network? Like, how did you take that and sort of expand on it?
Yeah, so, I probably didn't do a great job of networking, for the first 8 or 10 years. And really what got me focused on building my network was I participated in Lilly in 2015. And I'm not sure if people on the call are familiar with Lilly, but essentially it's the Leadership in Life Insurance Institute. And it's a 6-month course that where you really take a deep dive, both personally and professionally. What makes you get out of bed in the morning? What drives you? And it was that experience within Lilly where there were 6 other participants in that class, and that experience, seeing how other people have designed their practice, picking their brain, having the support of those individuals in that class was really that's what propelled me in the direction that I went in, to bring my practice where it is today. So the lessons that you learn along the way, you can only learn so much as an individual. You really need support of other people along the way. So Lilly was a huge part of that, and really strengthened a lot of those professional relationships that I value so much today.
Sure. And Lilly's a great program because it's one of those face-to-face, peer-to-peer learning type things. But I know that right now we're at a time where we can't really meet face-to-face as easily as we used to be able to. So how would you give advice to someone who's maybe trying to to still keep that networking up, but on a more digital capacity?
Yeah, so it's something I'm trying to learn myself right now. I know Brian Haney's on the phone as well, and Brian has done an unbelievable job getting his connections going, and been recognized a lot in the business. So if you have any if you want to add your 2 cents on that too, Brian, I'd love to hear it. But from my perspective, social media I don't do a great job of, but I've really tried just to connect with other people who do, and kind of piggyback off of what they're doing on a daily basis. If I see some good posts, if I see some good information, that's out there, I try to share it. And you really trying to focus on becoming a go-to person, not just on the benefit side of things, but if somebody has a question, they know they can ask me that question, and if I don't know the answer, I know somebody in my network who does. So Brian, you have any thoughts on that side of things?
Sure, Josh. And I'll type something into the chat, but I guess my best advice is just target the right people. I've always taken an approach that if you want to benefit from other people's status, it just elevates your own. So whenever I've gone into any kind of networking dynamic, Chamber of Commerce, in the association community where we spend a lot of time on, I've looked at who are the people that are already known commodities, the celebrities, or whatever it is you want to call them, and easy to find these people. It's not like not a lot of it has to be a mystery. You can start with a board. If it's a volunteer organization that's run by a board, those are probably people that are, more known because they're already on the board. But just finding and targeting those key people to intentionally find a way to develop some form of a relationship, either personal, professional, both. That's just made the biggest difference, because then it's not some sort of a systematic, am I getting to the right people? Am I finding the right audiences? No, I've determined these are the people that I want to know. And then if I'm successful with that, that'll spill over into a lot of other tertiary relationships that'll be beneficial. So,
yeah. And not necessarily, and I think you bring up a great point, not necessarily focusing just on, the financial services business, just, building your network with, you may not get business from a specific individual that you're networking with, but they know other people who may be able to connect you, who they may be able to connect you with. And actually, Jason, you posted a great question here about, or a great comment, I should say, just asking good questions. And if you can ask good questions of clients, try to take that same mindset towards your networking events too. It's not just, who you can refer me to right now at this point in time, but what's your business like? What's what's your ideal client? Maybe I know somebody, and I think a lot of times people kind of get into almost like a networking standoff. All right, who's going to blink first? Who's going to give that first referral? But really just asking good questions, learning what their practice is like, and putting yourself out there to give them that first referral, so that you really, but make sure it's a valuable referral because you understand their practice and what they're looking for.
Yeah. I would say that maybe clients these days might have some sort of an idea of what they're looking for too, since we are in such a vast age of information right now, with the internet being so important to everyone. Everyone's Googling everything. So how would you sort of set yourself up for success if clients are looking for information, but when you're meeting with them, they already have some sort of small nuggets of information from Googling things?
Yeah. So again, I guess everything is kind of running along this same line of really kind of making sure that you understand your clients, your network, who does what well, and not being afraid to share that with other people when you're having those conversations with clients. There's always that piece of information that you can connect to somebody else, and making sure that you have a network that's large enough and strong enough to say, hey, I know somebody who can help you out with that specific need or that specific question that you have. I think we're all probably guilty sometimes of trying to be an expert in everything, and really trying to be mindful of the fact that you can't know everything. You can't be an expert in every subject. So making sure that you are out there and learning enough about what's going on in the business to be able to make those connections. And a lot of that goes to just staying up to speed with developments in the business. And things change quickly, and Google's always the default, but it's nice when you have clients who ask you first.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So we have clients, and we know that we've talked a little bit about networking with them, but let's say that if there is someone out there that is newer in the business and they're trying to maybe look for a mentor, how is that different, looking for mentoring and networking there than networking with your clients?
Yeah. So I always think it's easier, doing networking and, talking to other people who are essentially in sales as well. You can be a lot more direct. They're comfortable, having those conversations to say, all right, can we help each other out? Being okay with saying, setting expectations and saying, all right, this is what I value in a networking partner. What do you value in a networking partner? And kind of cutting to the chase, because it's easy to collect a bunch of business cards at a networking meeting or get a bunch of connections on LinkedIn just because you send out the connection request with people. It's a lot harder to really dig deep and spend the time with those individuals to make sure that you understand their practice, they understand your practice, and you can have much more valuable time spent in those networking settings.
Sure. Yeah. No. Are you still? I'm curious. Are you still in touch with the person that recruited you back in 2006?
Yeah, it's a good question. I haven't talked to him in a long time. I think he's out in Chicago now, in the Northwestern office out there.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure he'd pick up the phone if I called, but yeah, it's funny that you say that. It'd be good to catch up with him.
Sure. Yeah. Especially, I'm sure that he's probably social distancing right now too. So
Right. Yeah.
he has a
Yeah.
lot more time. Yeah, and I guess the second part of that question: have you been on site at a networking meeting and met any young impressionable Josh O'Garas that remind you of yourself whenever you were getting started out there?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's actually one of the nicest things about NAFA, is just getting to meet new people in the business. Myself being an independent advisor, I'm kind of off on an island sometimes. Going to meetings with NAFA, attending, online events, whatever it is. It's always refreshing to meet new people who make you remember why you got started in the business, to begin with. And yeah, I just saw a post pop up. Need a great mentor. Van Miller has 47 years. He's one of the most generous people with his time. And I try to do the same thing whenever somebody who's new to the practice has a question, or needs some help with a case, whatever it may be. Just making sure that I'm as generous with my time as others have been with theirs.
And you may be surprised, but I've talked to a lot of my peers that are not in this same sort of industry. But a lot of us that are younger, we don't always know that we're in a mentor-mentee relationship. It just sort of clicks after a couple of years. We're like, wait a second, I've been getting advice from someone older in the business, and I didn't even realize that. Because I think a lot of people, if they actively search for a mentor, then I don't know, I think that the mentee-mentor relationship might be, what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe it sounds a little more intimidating than it is, but
Yeah.
it really is just sort of, getting the advice from someone that's been there, done that. So it's a nice feeling.
Yeah, and also, just as a younger advisor, not being afraid to ask somebody to be your mentor.
Yeah.
I think that's really important, because most people in this business are more than willing to help you out. And if you ask somebody who's successful and who you want to model your practice after,
Mm-hmm.
don't be afraid to ask the person and say, hey, I'd love it if we could set up a call every week or something along those lines. It doesn't have to be a ton of time. A lot of what you're going through in the first few years in this business is more, just emotional support than anything else. A lot of times, you got to keep grinding. You got to stick with it. And, just having a sounding board for somebody who's been there already can be the most important part of staying in this business long term.
Do you have any other additional tips for someone that's maybe just maybe some takeaways?
Yeah,
It's just easy to sort of remember.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, the biggest thing I can suggest to people is to try to take a similar approach to how you do client development with your mentor development, or with your network development. So, if I meet somebody at a networking meeting, or, online, through LinkedIn, whatever, and I think they could be a, valuable person to continue to network with, put them in your CRM. I'm sure most people on the call use some level of CRM, if it's just an Excel sheet that you track clients off of, or if you use Salesforce or whatever it is. Make sure you're putting as much time and effort into tracking those networking relationships as you do with your client relationships, because in reality, the networking relationships can be even more valuable than those individual client relationships. Particularly these days when people aren't out and around as much. If you can have a good connection with a networking partner where you're just they're giving you softballs, that are already teed up, it's a lot easier than trying to generate new business off of the traditional sales activity. So setting up a process for how you track those relationships, setting up expectations with those people. How many referrals would be a good relationship for that person and for you. For me, if I have I'm working with primarily with businesses. So, if I have a networking partner who, refers one business to me, every 2 or 3 months, that's actually a good partnership for me. But if you're looking to, write 100 lives in a year, a networking partner that, provides one name every, 2 or 3 months, it would be harder to make that sort of relationship pay off in the long run. So be intentional with your time, make sure you're tracking it, setting time aside every day. Actually, one of the things that we were talking about yesterday is, you don't have a commute anymore. Average commute is 26 minutes. So you have 52 minutes each day on average to devote to doing something a little different, trying something new. So maybe take that extra 26 minutes in the morning or in the afternoon to just focus on those networking efforts and setting up a funnel in your CRM to track those networking prospects and see how many cases you get from them. What works, what doesn't work. You just have to be intentional with it.
Right. Now, yeah, I remember you mentioning that the average commute statistic, and it's that did sort of it was eye-opening to me because I never thought about getting my time back in that way, and decided that I'm definitely going to use it to focus a little bit more on increasing social media efforts. But we did talk a little bit the other day about LinkedIn, and I mentioned that I see a lot of your posts on there, a lot of great content on LinkedIn. But if you had to identify maybe your next target social media platform that you're going to, I guess, get more involved in, what would you say is your next move there?
Probably getting more involved in LinkedIn.
Just more.
I'm, like I said before, that's one of my weaknesses. And I think that's part of, what you need to have front of mind when you are networking, what your strengths and weaknesses are. Because I agree, and LinkedIn is making a comeback. I would say, if I can increase my attention just on LinkedIn first and then build from there rather than trying to spread myself too thin.
Sure.
I think that would be a good goal for me to accomplish, at least in the next quarter. I'm not even on Instagram, don't have a TikTok.
I don't think I've seen any financial advisors on TikTok yet.
There's a guy, what's his name? Ruffalo, I think. Anthony Ruffalo, or
yeah,
he's a guy out in Buffalo who's big on TikTok.
Ruffalo and Buffalo, huh?
What's that? Yeah, Ruffalo and Buffalo. Yeah.
All right.
But so I know they're out there. I'm just I'm not focused enough on it right now.
Maybe that's how you capture that next generation, though.
Yeah.
They're all on there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Pretty soon you're going to see financial advisors dancing on TikTok and
that would not be me.
It's funny though. Yeah. All right. Well, great.
I do I don't know, Brian, I don't want to pick on you again, but you mentioned informal networking versus formal networking. Want to touch a little bit more on that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's kind of, if there are subject matter experts that can provide value, even if it's situational value or value specific to a certain component to your practice, but maybe not necessarily everything, that can be and has been for me extremely beneficial. And I guess it was just, it's the comment to say mentoring comes in a lot of different shapes and sizes. Don't have too small of a framework or a box so that way you miss other opportunities. Because I've grown professionally and personally by walking alongside experts, extraordinary other professionals, and in some semi-formal and mostly informal, just intentionally spending time and engaging with them, have grown in leaps and bounds. And so, I think that that's just something that, the more formal you can make things that make sense are always going to be helpful, because then there's, elements of accountability and intentionality. But I think that, you can also just say, I'm just going to try to make sure I spend, 45 minutes a week with this agency specialist because this person just walks on water when it comes to long-term care or whatever that is. And that can be a very valuable use of your time. So just look at it from a spectrum and also, fit in what you think you need.
Yeah. And I can't tell you how much I've learned just from hosting this program over the last year. It's just by being part of the conversation, part of the dialogue, is you absorb so much. So
yeah. And that's another good point. Just kind of get involved in organizations and groups that you may not necessarily always associate, with financial services, or that you just, it doesn't matter what profession you're in, you can always gain some knowledge from other professionals. It doesn't necessarily have to be specific to the industry. So
yeah, it can translate.
Yeah,
it really can cross over.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Josh, not to piggyback up too much, but what you said is so powerful. And I just want to give a very, very small example, but much of my interest in technology, branding, all that other stuff came because one of my clients, that's all he's done for the last 35 years. And so spending intentional time with him, not just on a professional capacity, doing what I was supposed to be doing for him, but just being around him, seeing some of the industry events that he was, involved in, listening to some of the presentations he would give, like that set me on a hugely important path towards having a more effective understanding of all of that. And I still can't scratch the surface of what it's like being him, but it was, that's just a really way outside the box example that has been so meaningful. And I think that especially in this day and age, where you can literally find a subject matter expert in just about anything.
Yeah.
So if you're thinking about, trying to find somebody that'll help you elevate your brand, or an online marketing specialist, I'm sure there's thousands of those now. Like you can find that virtually, you can find that in person. You'd be surprised. So just, you made such a good point in terms of, you can just go places just to generate interest in a relationship that may not always have to directly come back to you professionally. Mine did, but that doesn't always have to be the case.
Yeah.
Just want to point out, Vince Morgan in the chat said that's his story, IT background into insurance. You never know, who you're going to run into or what you're going to hear. Maybe even just in passing, it's going to change your life. Or maybe you go to a networking event in 2006 and then you decide to start your own practice. And just, you never know what's going to happen or who you're going to talk to. And it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And it's having the ability to do these Zoom meetings, I think is going to make it that much easier to, well, not easier, but connecting with people is going to be, there aren't going to be as many boundaries to, thinking outside the box and, getting into groups that you may not consider, you may not have ever considered, joining or listening to. It's just, be curious, just, try to learn something new each day and use those 52 minutes.
Well, does anybody else have any questions like to share for the group here? And otherwise, I'd love to get some final thoughts from you, Josh. Some final thoughts, takeaways, anything else?
Yeah, I'll give it a minute, I guess, to see if anybody else has.
I've got a question.
Sure.
Yeah, I have been teaching a bunch of different agents on Concierge for Advisors, which is a financial distribution platform. They made me their director of life insurance. I run my own practice in Idaho called Safe Money Solutions. And I am really curious about getting involved in local and national NAIFA events. Where would I go? Who would be the go-to person to find out more about attending different events? Of course, after this COVID-19 thing's over, when they actually can get on a plane and go to one, I would be interested, knowing that hopefully this is going to end soon and we can get back on planes and go places. Where would I go to find that out?
No, it's a great question. Well, first I'd like to, of course, say that's awesome that you're trying to get more involved. We love to see that. The nice thing about, I guess, it's hard to say, but some silver lining is that even though we can't meet face to face, we are still trying to have these meetings where we put everyone's video up on the screen, and we can still get involved, and we can still get great work done working as a team on video calls. We have an Impact Week, NAIFA Impact Week next month, where you can learn a lot about getting involved later down the line later in the year when we're doing more in-person, hopefully doing more in-person meetings. But the other thing I would say is that we have a leadership track that's going to be happening in November, which is a little far away, but as I said, that might be the opportune time where we're starting to get back into the swing of things. But I'd be happy to follow up with you on that.
Awesome. That would be great. You can email me at jason.n@conciergeforadvisors.com. I'm a personal friend of Van Miller's. If any one of you have never met Van, you need to meet him. He's been in NAIFA forever, and him and Tom Hegna will transform your practice. Those guys teach you how to ask good questions like, let me ask you a good question about COVID-19. Would you mind answering? And he does this to people that he doesn't even know them. Just walks up to them in the elevator and just says something like, with this new $2.2 trillion bailout, do you feel like taxes are going to go up or down in the near future? And they go, well, up, because he knows the answer, right? You got to ask good questions. So he says, well, if taxes are going to go up and you've got money in the stock market or in a 401k, do you really want to give half of your money to the IRS? Is there somebody that you're so madly in love with that you want them to be beneficiary of half your income? Well, no, we never thought about it that way. He goes, well, what if there was a way to convert all of your IRA into a tax-free bucket? I mean, and on it goes. You just got to subscribe to his newsletter. He's incredible. He's spoke for us many times, and our agent's production has doubled after he left.
That's awesome. Yeah, he's spoken for a number of our webinars and meetings before. Yeah.
Love Van.
Yeah. I did want to point something else out. Melody did say, is everyone up for a challenge? How about everyone takes a little piece of homework, updates some of their LinkedIn, maybe even post some content, and in time for the next class next Tuesday. It's actually a great idea. I'm going to do that later this afternoon.
And I guess just to wrap things up, Zach, with a little bit of a shameless advertisement for NAIFA, I think a lot of the themes that we talked about today was really kind of trying to get outside your own practice, talk to other people in the business. And I think one of the biggest advantages that NAFA has from an industry perspective is that we have so many different types of advisors who are part of our organization. That's absolutely the number one thing I value most about my NAFA membership, is being able to talk to and network with people from all different walks of not only the insurance business, financial services, investment advisors, health insurance agents, whatever it may be. I think NAFA really covers all the different bases when it comes to overall financial services. Long way of saying, I would strongly encourage everyone to get more involved with your local associations, as well as with NAFA National. There's a ton going on right now virtually, from a virtual perspective, in terms of the town halls that NAFA has going on right now. I mentioned Lily. Lily absolutely changed my life, changed my career. Some of my best friends are people that I've met through NAFA. So, it's I feel like I'm trying to get everyone to drink the Kool-Aid, but it's a great organization. And, I just leave you with, take some time to really kind of figure out what's going on in your local area and get more involved. So, thank you so much, Zach. I really appreciate you inviting me on the call. If anybody would like to reach out separately and, ask any questions or anything like that, you can reach me at Josh, Josh, at Ogara, Ogara, F as in Frank, G as in George. I'd be more than willing to help you out in any way that I can. And thank you all for listening today.
Thanks so much, Josh. I really appreciate your time, and I hope everyone has a great week and great rest of their day today. If you do want the recording from today's session, you can reach out to me at recruitment@nafa.org. Put that in the chat. And if you missed last week's recording, would like that as well, I'd be happy to send that to you as well, and answer any questions or pass questions along to Josh. Happy to do that as well. But hope everyone has a great day. Thank you so much for joining us.
Stay healthy.
Yeah, stay safe. Take care.